welcome to radio. I'm Reverend Rich. This is
Reverend Paul.
And we have a special guest today. Dun, 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 John Waterhouse, Dr. Reverend John Waterhouse. Did I say that right, or can I call you just John?
It's Reverend Doctor, actually, but I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
I want to give your audience just a moment to calm down about the beard. Most of them have never seen me with facial hair, if they've ever seen me. Those that have never seen me, this is how I look now. So, just wanted everybody to know that.
Okay. Well, this show is only about prayer. Earnest home, science of mind. What type is it, Paul?
Affirmative prayer. Not just prayer, but affirmative prayer.
There we go. See, we've got to make sure it's right. So we're going to have our guest pray us in.
We ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we center ourselves in the knowing of truth, that all there is God, that perfect, absolute, infinite presence, the creator of all that is, everywhere and always, absolute. And this presence dwells at the point of each of us. Everyone who's listening, everyone who's not. That is the essence of life, and we are it. And knowing that I am this presence, I speak with the authority of the divine. My word is God's word. And knowing that this is so, what I say is the reality that I live in and by. I know who I am, and I live from that understanding in everything that I think, say, and do. And I know that this time together on this wonderful prayers conversation goes beautifully well, that there is important information shared, hearts are opened, minds are opened as well, and that all is unfolding in perfect order. This time together is sacred time where we open ourselves to the possibility of life through this thing called prayer. And I simply let this be the truth for me and for life itself, right here, right now, and forevermore. And I let it be so. And so it is.
And so it is.
So it is. That was awesome and powerful, as always.
Thanks.
I speak to that. Well, let me give you a little bit of overview of our guest. You can reach him at revjohnwaterhouse.com. I personally know that he got that address recently.
Yes, that is the correct address. Thank you.
And he has a couple of books and things like that. What is that book that you have? It's called Introduction to Spiritual Mind Treatment by John
That's the
Waterhouse.
subtitle. The actual title is 5 Steps to Freedom.
See, we
Let's
got
get it on the screen.
No,
I got to go this way. There it is.
There we go.
There it is.
And you know what's interesting, John, is the may I call you John?
Please.
What's interesting is Reverend Veronica Silva, who was on last week, actually showed that book. We didn't prompt her for it. She had no idea you were coming on this week.
Well, but God knew.
God does know. God does know. There's a couple of other books that you have.
Yes. The other book that's already in publication is called The Sorry Syndrome. It's a little bit of a different kind of book. 5 Steps to Freedom is really about spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer. And it's step-by-step explanation of why these steps are there and why we do them in the order we do and what we accomplish by doing it. This book, called The Sorry Syndrome, was kind of a pet project. I spent, I think, about 12 years with a Native American shaman. And one night when we were sitting in circle with him, someone said they were sorry. And he asked that person if they knew what that meant. And they said, no. What does it mean? And I leaned in because I wanted to know, because I was an abuser of the phrase, I'm sorry. And so he said, what that means is that if I say I'm sorry, that I'm uncomfortable with how you're reacting to something I did. I wish you would stop it. And when you stop it, chances are I'll do it again. And that would not leave me alone for years. That stayed with me, not in a way that I thought it was pleasant, but that it was something that was unresolved in our culture. So I wrote a book called The Sorry Syndrome to really approach this idea of what happens when we say we're sorry. And there's so many easy ways to point out that it doesn't work. For example, if someone says they're sorry and the person they're saying to continues to have a problem with what that person did, the person that said they were sorry will say, but I said I was sorry, as though that makes any difference at all. It doesn't make any difference. In fact, it's a way of trying to sidestep it, the whole idea. And when we sidestep something, we don't learn anything. So we're going to do it again. And so my exploration of that came up with, yes, a series of steps of what you can do instead of saying you're sorry. And it's not really complicated. It's really based on the idea that you would acknowledge what you did. You would ask the person that had the reaction to it, why was this an issue for them? Let them tell you and listen intently, and then learn from what they've said, so that perhaps you can make a commitment not to say or do whatever that was again, to at least do it differently.
So it's sort of a book of discovery on how to actually, I mean, when we do prayer, we actually have to discover. I mean, how many times you ask them, what do you want prayer for? I don't know. So it's a way to get discovery out into the open.
It's absolutely become self-aware of how you're dealing with other people, how you're interacting with them, and what's working, what's not working. When something's not working, rather than running away from it, actually engage it. See what you can learn from that. You know, I've used it so many times in my life, and I really do learn from it. I get to look at it in a way that says, well, this did not work. And so doing it again would not help me at all, nor would it anyone in my life. So the idea there is to learn from our missteps, and apologizing just gets in the way. Do you know the word apologize actually means to argue for your position?
No.
So don't say I apologize in place of I'm sorry. The better response is, and this needs to come with that process, but to ask for forgiveness. Please forgive me. You know, I didn't intend to hurt your feelings or say something that was untrue. Maybe I did, so I don't want to say that if it's not true. But there's a strong possibility that we just weren't thinking, and that when we do think, we make better choices.
And this can work for self-revelation too. So I'm sorry for myself.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good
And there's a lot of people that tried to sidestep it and think that what this book is about is getting away with something. It's exactly the opposite. It's about learning from the things that we do that didn't work.
That's powerful.
So I've been quite a promoter of that over the last few years, and have a number of people that are diligently working to let go of that idea of being sorry. Even the word sorry comes from the same base word as sore. You know, like you would have a sore on your body. It's painful. It's not pleasant. It can be ugly. That's all what sorry is, you know, and we know that from the way the word's used sometimes. Like you're a sorry sack of you know what.
Potatoes.
It's not a pleasant word, and it doesn't lift anybody up. In fact, it pulls us down.
And the worst is when someone says, I'm sorry you feel that way. It's not even addressing why they feel that way.
I would say I'm sad that you feel that way. You know, sad is a better word, and it actually speaks to an emotion.
And then it brings it back.
Being sorry really doesn't change anything.
I like that. You know, we had a show on dictionary words earlier on, and the definitions that people have for certain words may not be your definition.
Oh, very much. Yeah, we alter a lot of things as time moves on, but that original form still lives. It may be hidden from direct view, but it's still there.
I had a teacher a long time ago. He says, you know, don't get that little dictionary. Get that big fat dictionary that has all the different, you know, pre and afs and all the other stuff inside of it, so that you can know what it is. And what you're telling us right now is that, you know, you've done the research on this and looked at it in a science of mindy way, and come to a conclusion that's useful for our audience, because our audience wants to do better prayer and talk to people in a better way and understand themselves in a way that resonates in the situations and
Exactly.
places that they're at.
Of course, of course.
Mhm.
And then I have a new book coming out. In fact, it's coming out this month, in February 2026. It's called Spirit's Awakening. And
Mhm.
it's about this whole idea of spiritual awakening and how that happens in our lives, and how, at least initially, it's not pretty. We usually have our first spiritual awakening when we're in crisis, when our
Mhm.
lives have gone incredibly wrong, when we're lost in it all and we don't know what to do. And that's usually the opening that allows us to begin to awaken spiritually. That's the way it happened for me. So I write about it. It's actually a memoir. And I take you through in this book called Spirits Awakening, through the series of events of my life where I suddenly realized it wasn't the way I had always thought it was.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
by doing that, I've been on this road of spiritual awakening for almost 40 years, and it has been the greatest blessing of my life to be doing this. So I share my story, but at the same time share how the things that I was learning along the way, anybody can learn. That
Mhm.
it's not something you want to try to get out of a book. You just want to be open to it in your life and not get stuck in the idea that the way you've always thought things were are true. Question everything. And when you question things, you may get a different sense of how it can be. And often we'll find that that different way is a better way. Sometimes not. Sometimes, we'll have a conversation with someone. Each one has a different reality, and
Mhm.
there's a sharing of those thoughts. And we would love to say that from that both are raised to a higher reality, but sometimes it's simply that you're more convinced that the way you've seen it is so. But don't get rigid with it. Be open to the possibility, because there are so many possibilities for revamping our understanding of how life works. I mean, the science of mind is based on that. Nobody comes into this physical world and just knows the things, the principles we know in science of mind. We have to discover them. We have to embrace them and
Mhm.
embody them. And that takes intention. So all the things we learn when we're children really are kind of counterintuitive to the metaphysical path that we the three of us have been on for some time now.
And the
And
spiritual
we need
awakening
one
is
another to be
progressive
on
as
that
well.
path.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
I said the spiritual awakening is progressive. It's not just an aha moment, but it continues to be an aha
Oh, it
moment as
has
we
a
live.
practicality to it, absolutely.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, what good is it? But if you can apply it to your life and do things in a different way to get a different result, we say that change your thinking, change your life, but change
Mm.
your thinking to what?
There you go.
That's
Yeah,
what we have to
exactly.
learn.
So speaking of changing our thinking and changing our life, with spiritual mind treatment, what tangible results have you seen with yourself with prayer?
Well, I do treatment work every day. I do not use it to solve problems. I think many people think that's what it's for. To me, it's the baseline of my life. It's the foundation, so that my job is to know who I am and why
Mm.
I'm here and what I bring. And when I know those things, I can get things done. So my treatments are about those very things. Claiming in the second step who I am, and in the third step, knowing things that are important but maybe not urgent. Setting my
Mm.
intentions, creating outcomes through my treatment work, but not because I want to fix something, because I want to accomplish something. I want to achieve something. And I
Perfect.
find in my life that people, or what I observe in other people, is that oftentimes they don't clearly know how to be that progressive way in their lives to actually create outcomes that serve them. They're putting out fires all day long. So they
Mm.
want treatment to be, help me get out of this mess. where that's the least valuable way to use treatment. Treatment, if you do it every day, if you start your day with it or end your day with it or both, creates that sense in your mind that your life has meaning and purpose, and you set out to achieve that, and it's not an endpoint, it's a direction, but you set out to do things in your world that make your world better. And when you have that intention and you set it again and again and again every day, those things happen. And then the challenges in your life have to do with how you achieve those things rather than how do you deal with this physical issue, this health issue, or this money issue, or this relationship issue, or this career issue. Rather than having to deal with issues at that level, deal with issues of, I'm at point A, I want to be at point B. My challenge is getting there. And so my work in consciousness is the revelation of the steps that will get me there. It's the same process. It's not different. You're just not fixing anything. You're accomplishing something. That makes sense?
Can you take us through those 5 steps?
Sure. I use 5 steps, absolutely, as the book says. And they're the traditional ones that I learned. They are recognizing the presence of the divine, which I explain to everyone. Don't think you've got that figured out. You don't. In your finite mind, you cannot completely understand the presence of the divine, but you can continue to move in that direction, understanding it more clearly. So that first step is really about identifying the creative force of the universe as best you can in the moment. And never fall back on saying the same words every time you do a treatment. Make it fresh. What do you know today about that presence that maybe you weren't as clear on yesterday? Pull something new out. Keep it alive in you. And then once you've got that, the second step really comes down to accepting that that's the truth of you as well. Because knowing that that divine presence is absolute everywhere and always, it must be at the point of view. And when I say at the point of view, I don't mean at the point of your body. I mean at the point of your being. And by recognizing the divinity of your existence, here's something, God, that I do with people, and some people just don't get it. I am not a manifestation of the divine. God did not make me. My body is a manifestation. It's a creation. My emotions are. Every element of my physicality is. But I'm the presence of the divine. Now, I may be functioning at the level of this life that I'm living through my body on planet Earth, but I have the same ability to create that the divine has, because there's no distinction between us. It's all a matter of scale. That's all it is. So when I know that, and I often will say words in my treatment like, my word is God's word. I speak with the authority of the divine. And that's telling me that whatever I put out there, I get. Because who's going to deny God? So with that attitude, I know that when I claim something is so, it's so. And I have seen it happen many times. Now, there's nuances to all that. I don't know how much you want to get into the nuances of it, but especially when we're treating for somebody else, we have to be very conscious of their consciousness and not overstep them, not fix them because they're not broken. I don't care what is going on in their life. I don't care if they've got stage 4 cancer. They're not broken. They're simply living a life according to those experiences. And it's all divine. It's all perfect. And I went through that with my wife when she went through her cancer and left my life in physical form. I had to recognize that there was nothing wrong with that. As hurtful as it was, as much pain as I was in, as much sorrow as I felt, that is exactly what had to happen. She was on her perfect course. And she left me to figure out how to do this by myself. I had never done ministry by myself before. She was always there. She was my rock. So I had to grow with her absence. That was her gift to me. So rather than seeing it as a great tragedy of my life, I see it as a incredible gift.
Mm.
So, and when I'm treating for other people, if they've got something going on, their life is on the line, I do not get in their way. In fact, I will not treat for anyone that has not given me permission. And not just permission to treat, but permission to treat for exactly what I'm telling them I will treat for. And once we
Mm.
have an agreement on that, then I'll step into the treatment and do the work, but not without their absolute agreement, because maybe it's time for them to go. And why should I do a treatment that they're going to stay in their bodies?
Mm.
That gets in their way. So I won't do that.
Well, when we do prayer for ourselves. We're actually treating ourselves, and then the
That's
universe
absolutely
changes.
For
true.
knowing it.
Yeah,
It's our experience of this other person that we're treating. It's our experience. That's the only place we can be effective. You're absolutely right. I love the idea. In fact, I found it when I reread the Science of Mind textbook last year, where Holmes says so clearly that you're always treating the practitioner. There's nobody else to
Mm.
treat. So it's absolutely true. Although we may have an object of our treatment, we may have a particular individual or even group of people as the focus of the work that we're doing. But all that's happening is happening in the practitioner. And,
exactly.
and that's where the power is. Because in relationship with this person or people or circumstance, whatever it is, the influence is still there. So my perception becomes the reality for not only me, but for them.
Mm.
Exactly. The whole reality changes of it, and it changes at an instance, because inside of our philosophy, it says that there is no time and spirit. So if you declare it, it's done, and release it into law.
And I actually had a conversation yesterday about that very thing on my podcast. And that was the idea that if you treat and the thing just shows up right away, many people will go, well, that's not really it then, because it was already happening before you did the treatment. But treatment doesn't happen in time and space, it transcends time and space.
Yep,
Mm.
And
that's
the way
true.
you know that is that if I do a treatment a day that says that you have the perfect, wonderful job, that you're gonna be great at it, and I know with absolute certainty that this is working out for your highest and best. If I'm knowing that to the depths of my being, and I never speak first person like that in a treatment, I would say, I know that Rich is experiencing the fullness and richness of this opportunity to serve humanity or
Mm.
something of the sort. And then the guy calls and offers you the job 10 minutes later. Did I have something to do with that? Absolutely. Because what I was saying was not limited to time and space. It could have
Mm.
started months ago. Doesn't matter. It's still happening because I'm clear that it's so.
Well, it's the planting of the seed we talked about, I think, a couple shows ago in Ernest Holmes' papers, page 88. It talked about you can actually go back and change what that seed was that you planted in your mind, because it's your
You can
mind.
absolutely.
There's nobody
Mm.
else's.
Sure. Yes. Treatment transcends time and space. I mean,
Yeah,
the
that's
words that we're saying are
yeah.
happening at a point in time and space, but the reality of it, the deeper understanding of it, and the use of the law to create it, the law doesn't have to deal with time and space.
Nope.
Mm.
Remember, every Reverend Janet said that in one of our previous shows. Every thought is a prayer, and even when you speak it out of your mouth, you're still telling the universe what you want. And Paul and I talked about this, and you and I have talked about this. The universe doesn't know the word no; it only hears what you're declaring. So that's just a thought. Go ahead.
There was a wonderful quote. I won't be able to give it justice right now, but I'll paraphrase it somewhat. That was in the Science of Mind magazine on this very day, as a quote from Ernest Holmes, and it said, "You can treat for 15 minutes, and then do the exact opposite of your treatment for the next
Mm.
23 hours and 45 minutes. And what are you going to get in your life? You're going to get that 15-minute treatment, or are you going to get the rest of your life? You're going to get the greater part of that, because that's where you're focusing your attention. So I think it's important that, and I had a practitioner once that said we need a sixth step that says you have to live it. And
Mm.
and I don't know if that's a step of treatment, but you do. You can't receive a treatment and then turn around and talk about the problem again and expect the problem to be resolved. It doesn't work that way. You have to go, yes, that's the truth of me now, and accept
That,
that, and then you get it. And you really don't even have to trust the outcome of the treatment. Just trust the practitioner that they know what they're
Mm.
doing. That's enough.
well, that which you
Mostly
give
that's
energy
about
to,
getting out of the way.
yeah, that which you give energy to, you actually are focusing on. Anything you give energy
Always.
to is what you're getting. And
Exactly.
then, and to your extreme, Paul talked about a book that I read about the 8-step treatment that Ernest Holmes had over in the book called Life. What was that book called, Life, Paul?
This
Oh,
thing
this thing
called
called
life.
This
life.
thing called Life. That's right. I bought it. I haven't read completely through it again, but I went 8-step.
Well, he breaks it down for each person what you're
Yeah.
praying for in the situation.
And,
Well,
and and he also said that it doesn't matter how many steps you do.
no,
Yeah, exactly.
no, it
It's
doesn't.
where does this take your consciousness when you do this work? That's the bottom line. And if
Mm.
it takes you to the place of resolution, of transformation, of whatever outcome you're seeing, and your life is aligned with that outcome, it will happen
You're speaking your
every
truth.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mm.
yeah.
Well, I don't actually own truth. I believe that I always write the word truth with a capital T and do not claim that it's mine, that it's greater than me.
Mm.
So just saying.
So, John, from being a practitioner to now being a senior seasoned minister, how has your prayer work changed?
Oh, that what an interesting question. Now I have to reveal some truth about my life. I was never a licensed practitioner.
No.
I know. Now, I've
And there's
taught
more.
hundreds of practitioners, but I never actually served with a license that said I was a practitioner. The reason for that is that I was in my first year of practitioner training when I met a woman named Terry Cole Whitaker.
Mm.
She had come to my center in Miami and did a workshop, and we were between ministers at the time. And uh, I was kind of hosting because I was the administrator of that center.
Mm.
And so I hosted her. She did a great Sunday. Her talk on Sunday was wonderful. Her workshop was great. And then there was her going out to dinner at the Fontainebleau Hotel on Miami Beach with a number of people from the center. And I heard about this. And I went to someone very close to me that was invited to go. And I said, "Can I go?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Okay." And when someone tells me no and I say okay, what I'm saying okay to is, I get that you don't think I should do this, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to. So about 5 minutes later, the one that put the dinner together, and actually the one that paid for Terry to be in Miami, came to me and said, "We're going to dinner at the Fontainebleau. You want to come?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And even though I was teaching a class there on Sunday nights, I put a note on the door and said, "Gone to dinner with Terry Cole Whitaker, no class tonight." And fortunately, none of my students ever got upset with me about that. So we went to the Fontainebleau. We're sitting at dinner, and I'm sitting next to Terry. And Terry looks at me and says, "What can I do for you?" I had no idea such a question
Wow.
was coming. And I had no pre planned answer, but it just came out of my mouth. I said, "You could ordain me into ministry." And she said, "Okay, get down on your knees," which I did. And she picked up her knife and she tapped me on one shoulder and then tapped me on the other shoulder and tapped me again on the first shoulder and said, "I hereby ordain you St. John the Divine."
Wow.
I got up and sat in my seat. The rest of the people around this big table were stunned. And I looked at Terry and said, "You know, that was real." And she said, "Oh, yes, I do."
Wow.
And that was my ordination into ministry.
That's so
That's
cool.
beautiful.
I never looked back from that moment.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, I'm glad to share that.
I
There
think
was
that's
actually
awesome.
more to the story. The woman sitting to my right was one of my ministers. Her name at the time was Reverend Barbara Bonacorso. And her husband, Tony, was sitting next to her. And Barbara had been in ministry for almost 5 years and had not been invited to be ordained. And Barbara, who I knew very well, would never cry in public, but she got close that day. And I looked at her and I said, Barbara, ask her, meaning Terry. And I scooted my chair back. And Barbara, with a broken voice, said, Terry, would you ordain me? And Terry said, come here. And Barbara got down on her knees. And Barbara had this head full of blonde curls. And Terry put her hand up in those curls and shook her curls around and said, I ordain you, you beautiful being of love and light.
Oh.
And Barbara sat back up. And we just looked at each other and said, wow, look what just happened to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to their room that night, Terry and her daughter Suzanne were staying at the Fontainebleau. And Suzanne asked her mother, do you think Tony knows about John and Barbara? And Terry laughed and said, John and Barbara don't know about John and Barbara, but they will. The next day I called Barbara and I said, we just got ordained. We have to have a party. We have to celebrate. She agreed. I said, let's go to lunch on Wednesday and talk about what we can do. So I took her to lunch on Wednesday. And we sat across a table at a beautiful little restaurant in the southwest part of Miami and realized that we were in love, which was really a complication at that moment because she was married. And we dealt with that over the next few days. She actually told Tony that she was going to leave him. When she told me she was going to do that, I said, oh, don't do that for me. She said, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. And she did leave Tony. She and I soon after moved in together. A year later, we were married and happily married for 34 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
All because you said yes. Yeah.
Because you said yes.
We said yes. That's right. So don't underestimate the power of yes.
John, we're going to have you come back again because we're way over our 30-minute mark.
Are we really?
Yeah, but we want to have you back again because you have many stories, and we didn't get to all the questions this time for our listeners. Also, a shout out to Ganjing Network. We just added them as another network. So we're on 19 platforms now all over the world.
Wonderful.
That's Asia. That's Asia. They've got a really good platform with a lot of good stuff on it. But what do you want? Actually, we already know your favorite book because you held it up.
Well, my favorite was the new one that I didn't even talk about yet very much.
Well, we're gonna when you release that book, we'll have you on for that. And then we'll ask
fantastic. I would love to come back. You guys are great. I feel like we're all old friends.
Well, we are.
Well, we are, yeah.
But
we're all in the one mind. If we're in the one mind, then
but I'm not. Oh boy, I could go off on a tangent on that. Let's not do that today. What do you want our listeners to take away from our conversation today, John?
Pay attention to what you think. Pay attention to what you're focused on. That's the answer right there. When you realize what you're focused on and see how it relates to what's happening in your life, you can change that focus. You can change that thought. You can change that image or any way that you want to deal with it, and you'll get a different result. I mean, that's the bottom line of this teaching from a practical standpoint. So if I leave you with anything, and that's the point of prayer. Prayer is not to be elegant and graceful. It's to be practical and real and useful and powerful.
Nice. And can you do our benediction for us?
I would be delighted to do that.
We got to do our
time?
final thing, and the benediction is the last part. I'm Reverend Rich.
Okay.
This is
Reverend
Paul. Radio. This is Reverend Paul. Where are you at, Paul?
I am spiritalive.com.
And then we have our wonderful guest, Reverend Dr. John Waterhouse, and we're going to be putting his information and his site and his books inside of the show notes. For those of you listening, you can go to prayersradio.com and just go to one of those sites and YouTube or any of them and get all that information. So if at this time you do the prayer, and then we'll have our little closing thing that we're new closing.
And thank you, John. Thank you for being part of this.
My absolute delight to be with you. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
Are we ready to pray?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is a prayer of gratitude. Gratitude for the time spent with these two beloved beings of love and light, knowing that they are doing incredible work in the world, bringing these messages to all who seek the truth. I am grateful for Paul. I am grateful for Rich, and grateful for this opportunity to connect, to share the love, to know the truth, and to live in the light of spirit. So as we complete this time together, I know whatever is next on our agenda is just as valuable and enlightening, and we bring to it all that we are in every way. And we continue on this road of awakening, this road of seeing the truth of our life and of all life. And knowing that this is so, in gratitude and love, I simply release this into the allness of spirit, knowing it reflects back into our experience in every moment, in every way. And so it is.
And so it is.
So everybody say bye.
Bye-bye.
Your prayer is my prayer. Your prayer is my prayer. Your